Today's topic is demand function and the law of demand. We already learned what is demand. Yes, with the Apple story, that is same example we have to buy her. That's good. And we have learned market demand also. So we can learn today demand function. Demand function expresses the relationship between demand for a commodity and the factors affecting it. Factors affecting it. That is, demand function is an influence of factors affecting demand on the demand of the commodity. In the law of demand, we establish the relationship between price of the commodity and its demand, assuming other factors constant. Assuming other factors affecting demand or influencing demand constant or not changing, or we call it as ceteris paribus. Px, price of the commodity, dx, demand of the particular commodity. In our example, not changing for a normal good Apple story. And we know the schedule also. So demand function is equal to function of price of the commodity, price of the related goods, income of the consumer, tastes and preferences, size and composition of the population, distribution of income, and the expected change in the price level. Price of the commodity, related goods, income, tastes and preferences, size and composition of population, distribution income, and expected change in the income, that is E. These are the factors affecting demand. Factors affecting demand. Or we can say determinants of demand. Please underline the heading determinants of demand. What are the factors affecting demand or determinants of demand? First point, as we learned our Apple story, price of the commodity. Tell me the answer. Price of the commodity, same as the Apple story, or I can explain here law of demand here. Price of the commodity is an important factor which affects demand for a commodity. Demand for a commodity increases when its price falls. When its price falls. From where you can understand this example. Same schedule of the Apple story of Annie. What is that? Tell me the schedule. Price and quantity demanded, 2 columns. In that, with 30 rupees in her hand to spend for apples. Price in rupees. When price is 10, quantity demanded is 3 kilos. Price is 6, quantity demanded 5. Price is 5, 6 kilos. So when we draw the diagram, there is a downward sloping curve. Here we are writing quantity demanded. Same thing we learned. Here price. And DD curve is a downward sloping curve. That is the inverse relationship between price and the quantity demanded. Isn't it? Price of the commodity. So this is called as law of demand. And Professor Marshall law. It's not changing. It can be applied to all normal goods. Law of demand. What is that? Professor Marshall has explained the law of demand as the amount demanded increases with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. Put inverted commas. Other things or other factors influencing demand remains constant or not changing. So rather than price, demand is affected by, influenced by many other factors that we have seen in the demand function. What are they? Demand function, factors affecting demand, price of the commodity, that explains the law of demand, price of related goods, that explains there are related goods in the economy, related, like substitute goods and complementary goods. Then Y stands for income of the consumer. When the income of the consumer increases, quantity demanded also changes. Tastes and preferences also affects the demand. Size and composition of the population in a family, in economy, that also affects demand. Distribution income and expected change in the price level of the commodity also affects the demand. So, what is demand function and what are the factors influencing demand? And already learned demand that has been made as a law by Professor Marshall, and it's a very sure question. What is law of demand? According to Professor Marshall, law of demand states that the amount demanded increases with a fall in price and diminishes with a rise in price. Other things influencing demand remains constant. And this can be explained with this schedule and diagram. So you are getting a question. What explain the law of demand? For 3 marks. Schedule and diagram. Same schedule, Apple story. Schedule and diagram. So 3 or 4 marks question comes with the diagram. So when we are learning the law of demand, that is only price changes, other factors influencing demand remains constant. So in this context, we can learn what are the determinants or other factors influencing demand. What are they? Already we have discussed now. Now we can explain briefly one after the other points. Okay. The first point, price of the commodity, same as law of demand. Explain that answer. The second is related goods. Price of related goods. What's the meaning of related goods? That has got some connection. When we say about the related goods in economics, we have substitute goods and complementary goods. What are substitute goods? Tell me, in our daily life, is there any item substitute? We can substitute in place of the other. Substitute goods are the goods that are used in the place of the other goods. Very simple example and common example, tea and coffee. Complementary goods are the goods that are jointly used. Jointly. Please underline, jointly used. It is the best example. Till now we can understand a very common example, vehicles and the petrol or diesel. They are jointly used. In order to make a milk tea, what are the ingredients used, jointly used? Say a lot of day-to-day examples we have. But I take the example to get clear understanding, car and petrol or vehicles and fuels. Okay. So substitute goods are the goods which are used in the place of the other goods. Tea and coffee. Like that, it's very clear. No need of scheduled learning. First of all, learn the answer. So, what is the logic of this diagram? Please see to it. OX and OY. What is the shape of the demand curve in the case of substitute goods? Actually, always on OX axis, we do mark demand. Okay, demand itself. But in my previous example, demand for apple, here substitutes are there. So, very general example, demand for tea. Do not change it. This is best to learn. Demand for tea and price of coffee. Always O y-axis price. Here only changes the price of coffee we are taking. Price of coffee increases. Coffee and tea are substitutes. Most of the cases, price of coffee increases. The demand for tea increases. Demand for tea increases. As the price of coffee increases as a substitute, I can think, okay, instead of coffee, I can take tea. So, in this case, demand curve is a upward sloping curve. Substitute goods mainly, demand curve is an upward sloping curve. In the case of complementary goods, tell me what are complementary goods? Complementary goods are the goods that are jointly used. My best example to give me the correct idea, I do take the demand for car and the price of petrol. As the price of petrol is high or increasing, demand for car or vehicles goes down. So it's a inverse relationship. Yes. Here, as the price of petrol increasing, demand for car is reducing. It's a negative slope like a demand curve itself. So we can say now, demand curve of substitute goods generally upward sloping, and the demand curve for complementary goods are downward sloping. With example, you can highlight. No need of schedule for the time being. This is enough. So make a question here. Related goods, what are they explained? That is substitutes and complementaries. Again, we can come to the point. Demand curve of substitutes and complementaries. Draw and show and Y. Now, another determinant of demand is income of the consumer. Yes, tell me income of the consumer. Demand of the goods is directly related with the income of the consumer. Income increases, demand for the commodities increases. So what's the shape of the curve now? OX and OY. Demand we can put it here. OX, OY here, income. As income of the consumer 1000 to 2000. Income of the consumers in Oman increased and workers increased. So demand curve is an upward sloping curve. Next point we have tastes and preferences of the consumer. Yes, please note it down. Next determinant of demand is tastes and preferences of the consumer. In that, we like to consume only those commodities which suit our tastes. Demand for the goods in this way is affected by our habits, fashions, likes and dislikes. If I am fond of a particular commodity, then what happens? Taste and preferences for a particular commodity is favorable. Then its demand increases. Fashion of certain commodities goes down. Then demand goes down, isn't it? Next point we have size and composition of the population. Size and composition of the population. How does it affect? Demand for the commodities will increase if there is larger population. If the country is overpopulated, the demand for the necessaries will be more and for the luxuries lesser. Increase in population increases demand and vice versa. Yes, how we can draw the diagram? Population increases, demand for the commodities also increases. OX and OY. Here demand for goods, demand always on OX, population. Here OY. As the population increases, demand for goods also increases. So demand curve is an upward sloping curve. No need of schedule, otherwise also we can explain this example. Demand for a commodity is related to income, directly related to income. So the distribution of the population will be made on the base income, region, sectors, literacy, etc. Each group has different requirements, so the demand for different commodities depends upon the composition of the population. Then another point is distribution income. Another determinant of demand is distribution of income. How the income is distributed in the economy. The entire national income is distributed among various groups, sectors and regions. If income is equally distributed, the demand for all commodities remain almost same. Demand is more or less same, almost same proportion. If there are more poor people more, then the demand for necessaries will be more. Demand for necessaries. Increase in the percentage rich people will increase the demand for luxuries. The next point we have expected change in the price level of the commodity. Expected change. Please underline. Expected change in the price of the commodities. Expectation means anticipated price of the commodity in future. If it is expected that price of the commodity will rise in future, the demand, today's demand for the commodity, present demand will increase. If the price of commodity will fall in future, the demand will decline. So gold, example. Price of the gold is today is high. Even though gold's price is going to increase future, then today's present demand is high. Another example, usually we confront this example like onions. In North India, very high demand for onions are there. If the price of the onions, because of any natural calamities, is going to increase in the near future, then the demand for the onions will be high and hoarding also will be there. So what are the determinants of demand? And explain the law of demand. So today's assignment is explain the law of demand with the example. Second question, what are the determinants of demand? All these determinants remains constant except price, then the law of demand is applicable. What are determinants of demand? Write these answers, learn the answers. Okay, thank you. All the best.